Hello, I'm Ethan. I'm 28 years old, I live in Seattle, and I work in IT for a mid-sized tech company downtown. Nothing flashy. I mostly deal with software maintenance, internal support, and making sure nothing crashes during launches. It's not glamorous, but it pays the bills and I like the quiet of it. I've always been reserved, I guess. I don't go out much. I'm not the kind of guy who talks a lot at the office. I'm the one people come to when their email isn't syncing or they clicked on something they shouldn't have, and I'm fine with that. Less talking, less explaining myself. That's probably why what happened with Sarah hit me so hard. She wasn't even in my department. She worked in legal on the other side of the building. We barely crossed paths for the first year I worked there. I just saw her in passing, always dressed sharp, always with her phone in one hand, coffee in the other, confident, composed, untouchable, to be honest. I think the first real conversation we had was in the break room. I was heating up leftover noodles and she came in looking kind of distracted. She glanced at the book I was reading, some old sci-fi paperback, and said, "You actually read that stuff?" I thought she was mocking me at first, but she smiled and added, "I used to love Asimov in college." That was it. That was the start. The next day I brought the sequel with me just in case. She didn't come into the break room that day, but the day after she did. We ended up talking again about books, then movies, then music, then work, nothing deep, just familiar. Before I knew it, we had this rhythm, not every day, but often enough. Sometimes we'd grab coffee during the afternoon lull, walk a few blocks just to get air. She never said much about her personal life, but once she mentioned her divorce papers. I didn't push. Then one rainy Tuesday, we were sitting near the window at the cafe across the street, watching people run with their umbrellas like always. I made a dumb joke about the weather being the most consistent thing in our lives. She laughed, really laughed, and then went quiet. I didn't say anything, just sipped my coffee. That's when she said it. I spent 9 years trying to make someone love me back. I don't even know who I am without him now. It hit me like a punch, not because of what she said, but because of how honest it was. I didn't know how to respond, I just sat there. Then I said the only thing I could think of. "Well, I'm glad you're here now." It wasn't enough, but it was something. From then on, things shifted, not dramatically. We were still just co-workers, but the way she looked at me, it changed. And I knew I was falling, slowly, quietly, but definitely falling. And still, I said nothing. There were so many times I wanted to tell her. When we were walking back from lunch and her arm brushed against mine. When she looked tired and still smiled anyway. When she started asking me about my life. Not just work stuff, but real things, family, dreams, loneliness. But I couldn't. I kept thinking she's going through a divorce, she's older, she's figuring herself out. The last thing she needed was a guy like me getting in the way. So I kept pretending, kept showing up for coffee, kept laughing at her dry jokes, kept listening when she talked about her ex and how he'd always make decisions for her, even about what they'd have for dinner. And I hated that guy, not because he was her ex, but because he made her feel like she didn't matter. Like she was just a passenger in her own life. One day she said something I haven't forgotten. "I feel more seen in 15 minutes with you than I did in 15 years with him." She said it like she was joking, but I could tell she wasn't. I didn't sleep that night. That was when I knew for sure that this wasn't just some office crush. I was in deep. I just didn't know what to do about it. I kept telling myself to stay calm, to not read into things too much. That we were just two people who enjoyed talking. Nothing more. But I was lying to myself, and I knew it. After that night when she said she felt more seen with me than with her husband, I started looking at her differently. Or maybe I just let myself look the way I already had been all along. I started noticing little things. How she always wore the same silver ring on her right hand. How she'd twist it when she was thinking. How her smile looked different when it was real, not the polite one she gave in meetings. How she really listened when I talked. Like what I was saying mattered. It was dangerous territory, I knew that. I avoided her for a couple of days, not in an obvious way. I just kept to my side of the office, skipped the afternoon coffee runs, pretended to be busy. It didn't feel good, but I needed space to get my head straight. Then came Friday. There was an all-hands meeting in the afternoon. End of quarter results, company goals, the usual fluff. They brought in pizza and soda to keep people from leaving early. I showed up late, grabbed a slice, and stood in the back, half listening. Sarah was sitting 2 rows ahead. I couldn't stop looking at her. After the meeting, people lingered around chatting, making weekend plans. I tried to sneak out early, but of course, I ended up in the elevator with her, just the 2 of us. She hit the button for the lobby. I stared at the door, hands in my pockets. There was silence, heavy, loaded silence. Then she spoke, soft but clear. "You keep looking at me like that. You're not just a friend, are you?" I felt my stomach drop. I didn't know what to say. My brain was screaming, "Just tell her the truth." But my mouth wouldn't open. I panicked. I looked away. The elevator stopped on the 6th floor, my floor. I stepped out without a word, didn't turn around, didn't look back. When I got home, I couldn't stop shaking. I sat on the edge of my bed, my phone in my hand. I stared at the screen for what felt like hours before finally typing, "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to make you uncomfortable." I hit send. She didn't reply. The weekend dragged. I didn't go anywhere. I didn't eat much. I didn't sleep well. Every time my phone buzzed, my heart jumped, and every time it wasn't her. Monday came. She wasn't in the office. Tuesday, same thing. By Wednesday, people were asking if she was okay. I heard someone say she was using up some PTO before leaving, that she was moving, something about a fresh start. My chest tightened. I wanted to believe it had nothing to do with me, that she'd already made that decision. But I knew better. I wanted to talk to her. I wanted to explain myself. I wanted to say everything I hadn't said, but I didn't know how to begin. That night, I opened her contact again, typed out a longer message. "You're right. I haven't been honest. I didn't mean to hurt you or confuse you. I just didn't know what to do with how I feel. You mattered to me more than I can explain." I stared at it for a long time. Then I deleted it. Didn't send anything. The next morning, I got into the office early, hoping to avoid people. When I walked past her desk, it was clean, empty, no photos, no books, no mug with the chipped handle she always used. Just a bare surface and a manila envelope with her name on it. She was gone, and it was my fault. Or maybe it wasn't. Maybe it would have happened anyway. Maybe I was just a small part of a much bigger decision she had to make. But it didn't feel that way. It felt like I'd messed up something real. I sat at my desk and stared at the monitor for hours, barely able to concentrate. I kept thinking about her question in the elevator. "You're not just a friend, are you?" No, I wasn't, but I had walked away like I was. And now I had no idea if I'd ever see her again. The next few days felt like I was moving underwater. People were still showing up to work, sipping coffee, talking about deliverables, debating where to order lunch from. And I sat at my desk, typing half emails, pretending to read documentation, nodding at meetings like I was present. But I wasn't. Sarah was gone, and the air in the building somehow felt different without her. I didn't know what to do with the weight in my chest. I kept thinking about that moment in the elevator, her words, her eyes, and how I just walked away. I replayed it like a movie I couldn't change. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized I wasn't just silent because I was afraid. I was silent because, deep down, I didn't believe I deserved someone like her. That was the truth I hadn't been ready to face. On Thursday afternoon, I was in the break room pouring coffee when I overheard two co-workers talking near the fridge. "Yeah, she's moving to Portland. Her sister lives there. Said she needed to reset her life." I froze. The one speaking was Andrea from HR. She must have been the one handling Sarah's paperwork. "She didn't say goodbye to anyone," the other person said. Andrea shrugged. "Maybe she didn't want to make a scene. She told me she just wanted a quiet exit." Quiet. That word stung. I put my cup down and walked out, my hands suddenly shaking. My chest felt tight, like someone had placed a brick on it. Back at my desk, I stared at her empty chair across the open space. No Sarah, no trace of her. Just a quiet space where someone used to exist. I couldn't sit there anymore. I shut my laptop and grabbed my jacket. I had no plan. I just left. I walked until I didn't recognize the streets. Somehow, I ended up near the park a few blocks from our office. I sat on a bench, pulled out my phone and opened her name in my contacts. Still nothing from her. No reply to my text. I opened the keyboard and typed, "I heard you're moving. I wish I had said more that night. I miss you." I didn't send it. Instead, I searched my email. I remembered once seeing her personal email when we were copied on a client privacy update. Found it. Gmail. I sent a message, short, desperate, honest. "Sarah, I know I don't have the right to ask, but I need to talk to you just once, please. If you don't want that, I'll disappear. I just need to see you one more time." Then I waited. No reply that night. No reply the next day. By Saturday, I felt stupid for even trying. I went to the grocery store just to feel normal. I stood in line at the register with frozen pizza and mouthwash, wondering if I should just delete her number and forget this ever happened. And then my phone buzzed. Unknown number. One message. "Tomorrow, my place. You remember the address?" My heart stopped. I reread it 3 times. Then I sat in my car outside the store for a while, trying to figure out if this was a good idea. But I knew I'd go. Sunday came fast. I was nervous the entire day, couldn't eat, couldn't focus. I was already parked outside her apartment early. I didn't knock until just before the agreed time. She opened the door slowly. She looked tired, her hair tied up, no makeup, wearing a sweatshirt and jeans, but her eyes were still the same. I opened my mouth to speak. "I just wanted to—" She stopped me with a look, not angry, not cold, just steady. Then she said, "Just say what you really think." And I froze because I'd rehearsed a dozen things. Apologies, explanations, excuses, but none of them were real. None of them were what I really thought. So I took a breath and told the truth. "I think I screwed everything up. I think I was so afraid of making you uncomfortable, of ruining your peace, that I made myself disappear. I didn't walk out of that elevator because I didn't care. I walked out because I care too much. I haven't stopped thinking about you. Every day I regret staying silent more than I've ever regretted anything." She didn't blink. I stepped back, ready for her to say it was too late, but she didn't. She opened the door wider and gestured for me to come in. No smile, no words, just an invitation to keep talking. So I walked inside. Her apartment was quiet, no music, no TV. Just the low hum of the fridge and the occasional creak of the hardwood floor beneath our feet. I stepped inside slowly, like I was entering someplace sacred. And in a way, I was. Sarah closed the door behind me without saying a word. She didn't offer me coffee, didn't ask how I'd been. She just walked into the living room and sat down on the edge of the couch, resting her elbows on her knees. I stood there for a second, awkward, unsure. "Sit," she said softly, nodding toward the armchair across from her. I sat, and for the next few seconds, maybe minutes, we just looked at each other. No blinking, no smiling, no fidgeting. It wasn't uncomfortable. It was necessary, like both of us were measuring the weight of everything unsaid. Finally, she broke the silence. "Why did you come?" I didn't dodge it. Because I couldn't stop thinking about you. Because I hated myself for walking out of that elevator. Because I've never met someone who made me want to be braver. Until you. She looked down at her hands, played with that same silver ring she always wore. "I thought you hated me after that night," she said. I shook my head. "God, no. Then why didn't you say anything?" I sighed. "Because you were going through hell and I didn't want to be another problem. I kept telling myself it wasn't the right time, that maybe you needed space, that maybe I was just projecting feelings onto you because we were spending time together." "You weren't," she said without hesitation. "You weren't imagining it." That sentence hit me like a punch to the chest. "I was falling for you," I admitted quietly, stupidly. "And I kept stuffing it down because I didn't think I had the right." She nodded slowly, her lips pressing into a thin line. "I was scared, too," she said, terrified. "You were the only thing in my life that felt calm, safe, and I didn't want to mess that up. After everything I'd been through, the last thing I needed was more confusion." She paused. "But when you left that elevator and then I didn't hear from you, I thought I made it all up, that it was one-sided." "You didn't," I said quietly. "You never did." Another silence followed, this one heavier, fuller. And then she spoke again, softly but directly. "I'm still leaving." "I know," I said. "I'm not here to stop you." Her eyebrows rose like she didn't expect that. "I came because I owed you the truth and because I needed to say it out loud for you and for me. Not to change anything, just to be honest." Sarah leaned back into the couch, exhaling slowly. It took me years to realize how often I kept quiet just to keep the peace in my marriage. How much I swallowed to avoid conflict. I promised myself I wouldn't do that anymore. "You shouldn't," I said. "You deserve better than silence." She looked at me then, really looked. Not like I was a problem or a memory or a maybe, but like I was real. "Neither of us said what we needed to say when it mattered," she said. "But I think this moment matters more." I nodded. "So what happens now?" She smiled for the first time since I arrived, but it was a sad smile, real. "I still need to go," she said. "Not because I'm running, but because I need to know who I am outside of all of this, outside of my past, even outside of you." "I understand," I said, and I meant it. "But if I wanted to call you sometimes, would that be okay?" She laughed quietly. "You better." We didn't hug, we didn't kiss. There wasn't a romantic climax, just two people sitting in a quiet room, finally honest with each other. As I got up to leave, she walked me to the door. "You think this is over?" I asked gently. She looked at me, then said, "I think this is the beginning of something that deserves to grow the right way." I nodded. "Then we'll take our time." She opened the door for me. "No more silence?" I asked. "No more silence," she said. I walked out into the fading afternoon light, and for the first time in weeks I felt like I could breathe again. It had been a while since I walked out of Sarah's apartment with her voice still echoing in my head. This is the beginning of something that deserves to grow the right way. And since then, nothing dramatic happened. No airport chases, no sleepless FaceTime calls, no love letters. But the silence between us this time was different. It wasn't fear. It was space, intentional, agreed upon space. And even though part of me wanted to break it a dozen times a day, I didn't. Because I understood what she meant. She needed time to settle into her new life, to breathe, to figure out who she was now that her marriage, her job, and her city were all behind her. And honestly, I needed time too. After that night, I stopped avoiding mirrors. I started therapy. I signed up for a local volunteer tech program teaching seniors how to use email and smartphones. Something about helping others made me feel a little more human. But every morning, the first thing I thought about was her. And every night, I'd pull up her name in my contacts, stare at it for a few minutes, and then put my phone away until one Sunday, cold, gray, typical Seattle. I'd just gotten back from the grocery store, some part of me still refusing to order takeout like a normal person. I was unpacking bags when my phone buzzed. Sarah. Hey, how was your Sunday? Just that. I stared at the message for a long time before replying. Better now. She wrote back instantly. I'm in town for a few days, visiting my sister and some unfinished business. My heart skipped. I wasn't sure what she meant by unfinished business, but I wasn't about to ask through a screen. Coffee? Her response. Better idea, I'll text you the address. The address came through. A small corner cafe in Queen Anne. Not far. I threw on a jacket, barely noticed the cold. When I walked in, she was already there. Same silver ring, same steady eyes. She stood as I approached and we hugged, just a few seconds, just enough. We sat across from each other. She stirred her coffee. I didn't even touch mine. She smiled. You look different. I shrugged. Better or worse? More like yourself. I smiled back, a little self-conscious. You look good too. Happy? She nodded. I think I am. There was a long pause. Then she said, I've thought a lot about that night, what we said, what we didn't say. So have I replied. Sarah looked me dead in the eyes and asked, Are you still in love with me? It wasn't a romantic question. It was a real one, honest, necessary. Yes, I said, but it's not the desperate kind. It's not the I need you to be okay kind. It's the I respect who you are whether you're with me or not kind. She leaned back, arms crossed gently. I didn't come here to start over, she said. I came here to see if there's still something worth continuing. And is there? I asked. She hesitated, then smiled. Yes, if we do it slowly, no pressure, no fantasy, just two people building something honest. I nodded. That's all I've wanted. The barista came by with refills. Neither of us touched them. Sarah reached into her coat pocket and pulled out a key. I rented a small studio near the lake for a few weeks, she said, to be close to my sister, to think. But I don't think I need that long to know what I want. She slid the key across the table, then pulled it back quickly with a smirk. No, I'm not asking you to move in. Just if you're around, come by, talk, walk, be. I grinned. I'll bring coffee next time. You better. We left the cafe together, walked in the direction of the water. No hand-holding, no grand gestures, just steps. Real, slow, grounded steps. As we stood at the edge of the lake, watching the sky fade into soft blue and orange, she looked at me and said, No more hiding. I shook my head. No more hiding. She nodded. Good. Then let's see where this goes. Not a promise, not a fairy tale, just two people who finally said what they really felt, and that was enough. In the quiet spaces between unspoken words and fleeting glances. Ethan's story with Sarah teaches us one of life's most profound lessons. The courage to voice our deepest truths can transform regret into renewal. We've all been there, trapped in the elevator of hesitation, where fear whispers that silence is safer than vulnerability. But as Ethan learned, that silence doesn't protect. It erodes the very connections that make us feel alive. Sarah's journey through divorce and self-discovery reminds us that healing isn't about rushing into love, but about honoring our authentic selves, even when it means stepping away to grow. Imagine the weight lifted when we finally say, "I care too much," instead of walking away. This tale isn't just romance, it's a mirror to our own lives, urging us to break free from the chains of doubt and embrace honest conversations. In a world that often values facades over feelings, let's choose bravery. Speak up before the moment slips away and build relationships grounded in truth. It might not lead to fairy tales, but it promises something real: peace, connection, and the chance to breathe freely again. What about you? Have you ever regretted staying silent in love or life? Share your stories in the comments below. I'd love to hear them and respond. If this touched your heart, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications for more inspiring tales that remind us of what truly matters. Let's grow together.